Farmers' issues in rural Sri Lanka, the rise in forest fires, and a possible change in the education structures of Sri Lanka. There's a lot going on here in Sri Lanka and around the world, and to stay updated with the very latest, you're watching Primetime News here on TV1. Bringing you the news from the news desk, I am Sandro Satyajit. And before we get into your news in detail, first let's take a look at your top stories for tonight.
News First, headlines, main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
One exam for the annual school academic year starting from next year. A statement from the Minister of Education. Buffaloes graze on dying paddy fields in Bulletin. Minister of Agriculture speaks on what happened.
දාල පාර්ශව සියලු අංශ එකතු වෙලා මේ පිළිබඳව සාකච්ඡා තියලා යම් තීන්දුව ගන්න තිබුණා. නමුත් මම හිතන්නේ ඒක සිදුවීමේ යම් අඩුපාඩුවක් පේනවා.
Farmers in many provinces face issues in selling their harvest. Government representatives highlight the reason for the farmers' plight.
අපි ආණ්ඩුවක් විදිහට ප්‍රතිපත්ති තීන්දුව ගන්න වෙලාවේ සිදුවෙච්ච යම් දේවල් නිසා මේ අපහසුතාවය වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
කරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමනි මේ සාකච්ඡාව අපි කවුරුත් ගෙනියන එකේ තේරුමක් නැහැ.
Forest fires destroyed 2,300 hectares. 10 suspects arrested for arson. Prison officer attacked by an underworld gang in Valigama. Fatal train derailment in Pakistan.
News First, headlines, main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
And now on to your lead story for tonight. Minister of Education Dr. Susil Premajayantha says that only one term exam will be held per academic year at school starting from next year. The minister made these statements speaking at the prefect's investiture ceremony of the Hewagama Model Primary School.
We will reduce the number of term tests per year from next year. But after every lesson, known as modules, we hope to assess the students and get those details uploaded through a computer. At the end of the year, the students will be assessed 70% based on the exam and 30% of classroom assessments. We will gradually increase this ratio to 50 to 50. Students can't go to tuition classes and get the 50% of points given for classrooms assessments. They need to come to school and do the work inside the classrooms. Then everyone becomes equal.
The Minister of Education also said that there will be a change in the school textbooks. He said that the aim of this change is to reduce the weight of the school bags of the students.
This is free education. The students are all put into a race and asked to run. So the students run. When the students put all of their books in the bag, it weighs about 10 kilos. We will break down these books into 3. There will be 1 workbook per term. There will be 3 separate workbooks for the 3 terms. After the first term is done, the first term book can be left aside. Students don't have to take that book to school until December. That is how things are done overseas as well.
In other news now, many paddy fields in Valava are withering away as water for the fields was not released from the Samanala River. Farmers there have abandoned their fields, and these fields have now become lands on which buffaloes graze.
These buffaloes are grazing on a paddy field that is nourished from the Mawara reservoir. This field has been abandoned as water is no longer being released to nourish these fields, and they have now become grazing grounds for buffaloes. These paddy plants can no longer be salvaged.
Buffaloes have been allowed to graze on this field since day before yesterday. There is about another acre left. Buffaloes will be allowed to graze on this area as well during the coming days. What can we do? there is nothing left to do. Buffaloes must not be allowed to graze on these fields as they are sacred crops. These fields have been abandoned as there is no water.
Farmers in Hambantota have embarked on a desperate attempt to collect and use what little water is remaining in the Araboka River for their paddy fields.
We are trying to provide food not only for our people but for the entire country. Can't you see or feel our pain?
This is the state of the paddy fields in the Valava left bank in Hungama Angunukula Palassa. Farmers point out that about 100 acres of paddy fields have withered away.
Fields are withering away. There is no point in releasing water to these fields now. We are asking the Minister of Agriculture for a fair compensation to be paid.
The Satyagraha launched by farmers in Ambelipitia demanding for water to nourish their fields entered its 14th day today. However, no solution has been provided to their issues.
Everyone here are farmers. We have lost our jobs. We were left helpless last season as well. We cultivated the previous season after suffering to get proper fertilizer, and after all that the government couldn't give us a proper price for our produce. These same helpless farmers are now again helpless because there is no water. What is the response of the government to this?
Other cultivations have also been affected by the lack of water. Banana, guava, brinjal and ladies' fingers cultivations in the area have also been severely affected by this situation. Banana cultivations in Mayurapura Suryavavu is also at risk of being destroyed due to the lack of water.
Ministers are playing a game of tug of war in Parliament, and we the farmers will die of starvation.
Farmers of the Valava right bank of the Angunukula Palassa Mahavali division say that if water is released to the paddy fields at least now, at least part of 65,000 acres of paddy fields can be saved.
They gave us a time period to sow the fields. We were told to sow our fields before the 15th of May. If they give us water according to the days we have sowed, they need to give us water for another month. The releasing of the water to the paddy fields will end by the 8th. All of us here have work to in the fields. If our paddy fields don't get the water that it needs during the next 2 to 4 days, there is no use in sending water after that. These ministers did this to us together. In the future, we will not have food and electricity. What's the point if we have electricity but don't have any food?
Meanwhile, Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amravira says that the reason farmers are facing the crisis due to the lack of water is because proper decisions had not been made.
We are facing a severe drought. I believe that we should have a more broad discussion on this drought. It would have been better if the Met Department informed us about this situation more accurately. The relevant parties could have discussed together and taken the required decisions. But there seems to be some issues there. I think that we will have to suffer some loss this time. But I believe that this should be taken as a lesson for the future, and measures should be taken to try and prevent this kind of situation from happening again.
A group of farmers from Trincomalee convened a press conference to show their support to farmers in Udavalava.
Agriculture is the only means in which the farmers can satisfy their hunger. All these efforts are for the survival and nothing else. So we are asking the ministers and Minister Kanchana to set their arrogance aside and provide water to the farmers.
We can see that we are going to be oppressed here the same way that they oppressed the villagers in Ratupaspala when they went to ask for water. What all the helpless farmers are asking for is to save their fields, not to build castles. Please give them a solution without passing the buck from minister to minister. There is no point in talking about all of this once the paddy fields are destroyed.
We are reminding the leaders of this country that the president had to step down after messing with the farmers. In the same way, we tell Ranil Rajapaksa that not only the citizens of Monaragala, but farmers' unions across the country are watching you. We ask for water to be released to these farmers within the next 24 hours. If this is not done on time and they are not provided with the necessary facilities, action will be taken not only from Monaragala, but by the farmers in Trincomalee as well.
The National Farmers Movement also convened a press conference to express their views on the crisis faced by the farmers.
We are asking the government not to consider this a game. These farmers protested during the fertilizer crisis in the past as well. They are ready to protest again for their rights. So what must be done is not to suppress these farmers or ignore them, but provide solutions to them. That is what we demand as the National Farmers Movement.
Views regarding the crisis faced by the farmers were expressed during the Hambantota District Lawyers Conference organised by the lawyers team of the Jatika Janabala Vegaya.
This is a serious crime. What is Ranil Wickramasinghe's government doing without providing water to the helpless farmers and letting these paddy fields go to waste? They are committing a crime against the people of this country. If we can take legal action against their heinous crimes, we must consider that immediately. Our lawyers are prepared to take the necessary actions against them. Gotabaya and Mahinda restricted the farmers' access to fertilizer and made them beggars. Now Ranil is restricting the farmers' access to water and destroying them further. We tell Ranil Wickramasinghe that this is unfair by the farmers and you must stop this. If you are a person who consumes rice, give the farming community the water they need to solve this crisis situation.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa says that there is a consensus in the cabinet to solve the water issue in Udavalave by paying compensation to the farmers without disrupting the supply of power.
We have received reports that it has been agreed at the cabinet that there is no way that they can impose a power cut, so they cannot provide water for cultivation. So they will try and solve this by providing farmers with some compensation. If there is a shortage of rice, we will bring rice from abroad and solve that problem. I would like to question the government as to if this is the bankrupt national policies of this bankrupt nation. It is very shameful if a cabinet headed by the president is providing such an answer.
The issues faced by the farmers in the south were also expressed at the Jail Electoral Conference of the Jatika Janabala Vegaya.
They obtained loans to sow their fields. They struggled to find the seeds. This is the only mode of income they have for 6 months. The only way that they can live is by getting a good harvest. But the government is asking the people, do you want electricity or your paddy fields? What kind of leaders are these? The paddy fields of 65,000 farmers are dying, but the leaders are asking us, do you want electricity or paddy fields? Then they say if water is provided, we will have to cut off the power supply. But if you want electricity, we can't release water to the paddy fields. What kind of leaders are these? They are holding a sword over the head of the people and asking them if they want their paddy fields or electricity. What kind of a country produces such leaders? This country needs a new government that considers the sorrow and hardships of the people as their own. This government needs to be made up of humanitarians.
While the farmers in the south watch helplessly as their fields wither away, the farmers in other parts of the country are facing a crisis as they are unable to sell their harvest. Farmers in many areas, including the eastern, north central, northern and Uva provinces, are suffering from not being able to sell the harvest at a proper price. What is this problem? Although the Paddy Marketing Board had announced that they will be purchasing paddy, farmers in several areas lament that they are unable to sell their produce. This issue came to light during a district progress review meeting held in Ampara under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena. Although farmers had cultivated paddy more suitable for the eastern province based on the advice of experts in the field, the Paddy Marketing Board revealed that the government had recommended purchasing only 2 varieties of paddy, namely Bola and Nadu. However, based on the advice of the experts, the farmers had cultivated white long and red long types of paddy.
As the Paddy Marketing Board, we have been advised to buy Nadu, Bola kiri samba and other samba varieties. But in our district, 95% of cultivations were white long and red long rice. Now the demand of the farmers is to implement a program to purchase those types of harvests. Have you given any advice on what kind of paddy we should grow in Ampara district? Now you can't come at the last minute and say that you can't buy red rice. Who are the responsible officials here? Now what we need to do is to give advice to the farmers on what needs to be cultivated. No, we are cultivating paddy that is suitable for this district. There is no problem with that. This problem has come when purchasing paddy because it hasn't been like this for the longest time. That 50 million rupees was given to us as a loan. The agreement is that the loan should be settled by the 31st of December this year and not to purchase paddy that have a risk of the price of them falling.
Whose fault is this? The representatives of the government themselves admitted that the farmers are not able to sell their harvest because of the negligent decisions taken by the government.
He really cannot give an answer to this. These difficulties have been caused by some poor decisions that we as a government have made. Honorable Prime Minister, there is no point in continuing this discussion. None of these officials can give a solution to this. Therefore, a plan should be made to buy such paddy. We have to do this as a government. What the ministers are saying is right. As a government, we have to come to a decision and intervene to purchase this paddy.
The officials from the Paddy Marketing Board further pointed out that only a mere 50 million rupees has been allocated for purchasing paddy in the Ampara district this season, despite the Ampara district being the largest paddy producer in the country. They pointed out that this sum of money is insufficient to purchase even 1% of the paddy produced in the Ampara district.
News First with the people.
Over 2,000 hectares of land has been destroyed by forest fires. What are the precautions taken for this? This and other news coming up after this short commercial break.
News First. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
A movement possessed.
Democracy is threatened in our country. On the other hand, the fact that we are able to talk like this, talk freely like this, is a sign that it is still alive.
They have planned to suppress the leaders who are talking about these issues. As a trade union leaders and as people of the country, we have a right to talk. We have right. This is a democratic country.
Last year, despite the repression, people just came out to the streets and didn't go home, didn't want to just take a back seat.
The caliber of men I saw in the 70s was quite different. It's a world of difference, right? They were people who were very responsible. Fortunately, in Parliament, we don't see that kind of leader. They are sometimes sleeping, snoring.
Face the Nation, Wednesday nights at 9:30 on TV1.
If you are talking about SOEs, the number one priority should be not selling or divesting or getting dollars by selling your family silver, but by making the SOEs viable and profit-making.
He in fact said, I would like you to be a chairman of another organization. So it was more a surprise and some form of unexpected move, which I believe is not proper ethics or decorum in a corporate boardroom.
We are not against private enterprises. We are not for keeping loss-making institutions with us either. But what we are against is the complete outright selling of things.
Ministers also must understand that these entities also must be run and managed in a profitable manner. How do you get along with this? You need to know your numbers, you need to know your staff, you need to know your efficiency levels. If technology is not brought in, that has to be brought in. So,
Newsline, Monday to Friday at 8:30 p.m. on TV1.
The public sector is getting funds from the government, restructuring SOEs or privatizing state-owned enterprises. People's perception is that SOEs are not efficient enough. What do you do to motivate the staff to be more efficient? The services are not decentralized. They are all concentrated in Colombo. There are 5 or 6 steps which may be deemed unnecessary.
The People's Platform, every Monday and Friday at 7:30 p.m. on TV1.
Welcome back to the news. Now, several trade unions protested opposite the Biagamas Simbalpe Junction this afternoon. They demanded for an immediate end to the looting of employee pension funds under the pretense of domestic debt restructuring.
Several trade unions, including the Abindu Collective Union, Commercial and Industrial Workers Union, Development Workers Union for Human Liberation, participated in this protest.
Do not touch the superannuation funds. Do not reduce the interest rates to 9%. We are not responsible for the debt the government had taken. We would like to reiterate that we will continue this Aragalaya until we emerge victorious. This is the right of the working people that is being tampered with. Nobody can do so. We will not let them.
Meanwhile, in other news, the Samagi Young Lawyers Association convened a press briefing today and responded to a statement made by President Ranil Wickremesinghe recently.
On Friday, the President said that the government is not ready to follow the instructions or orders of anyone except the Parliament in the debt optimization program. The Samagi Young Lawyers Association responded to this statement today.
We condemn these threats made to the court by the President, who tries to portray that he is a member of the legal profession. At the time when Mahinda Rajapaksa and Maithripala Sirisena stole his position in 2018 by staging a coup, the only place that Ranil Wickremesinghe could go to was the Supreme Court. The money for the election has already been allocated in last year's budget. But if the monetary power is within Parliament, then why is the amount that was allocated for the election by the Parliament not being released to hold the election? The President must not be trying to legitimize the powers that he has lost. Please dissolve Parliament and give the people an opportunity to elect a Parliament that truly represents the mandate of the people. Some say that the common candidate is Ranil Wickremesinghe. Who has decided this? The common candidate is none other than Sajid Premadasa, as decided by the SJB. People say that the UNP and the SJB should unite. There are reasons why we split. Have any of these reasons been fixed? It is only a year since Ranil Wickremesinghe became president. What happened to their party supporters? Not a single meeting was held during this year. He didn't attend a single rally. Why is that? He cannot go. I heard recently that the new law was brought in at the working committee for the power of the working committee to appoint and remove the leader of the UNP and transfer to the executive council. This means that he knows that he will lose the election and that he needs to keep his leadership and continue to be a parliamentarian. Why should we go and align ourselves with someone like that?
He made these remarks at the 145th edition of the event titled Chandapola Godanagana Janapawra in Maharagama. The event was chaired by opposition leader Sajid Premadasa.
On to other news now. An officer attached to the Gaul prison has fallen victim to an assault carried out by an organized crime gang. The Commissioner of Prisons and prison spokesperson Chandaneka Naik said that a group of 10 individuals carried out the attack.
When a prison officer working at the Gaul prison has finished his work and was on his way to his residence in Madara, an organized crime gang with about 10 persons had arrived at the bus stand with 356 weapon and poles, boarded the bus and beaten the officer. He is receiving treatment at the Madara General Hospital. We condemn this attack and we expect to work with the police and probe into the incident and take further action. This officer was transferred from the Madara prison to the Gaul prison 2 days ago. An inmate at the Madara prison who was supplying information to the prison's officer on contraband inside the prison had been assaulted by a group of inmates inside the prison. Those inmates were moved to different prison. The transfer of these inmates is the reason for this assault.
In other news now, the wind power plant by Windforce and Hirura's Power with 6 wind turbines was opened today in Mannar. Now, accordingly, 15 megawatts of wind power was added to the national grid this morning at the event held under the chairmanship of the Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijesekara.
Of course, we understand the escalation of prices, taking into account the exchange rate variation, the interest rate variation, the prices of other products, services that have taken place over the last 12 months. So that's why we decided that as a policy matter, we discussed with the President and the Cabinet of Ministers to maybe extend a tariff adjustment or a tariff increase for the developers who have been able to complete projects during this crisis, taking into consideration the costs that are incurred to them. We have proposed to the Cabinet to give tariff increments. Certain projects will receive 140% of the tariff increment, some will receive up to about 170%. So the Cabinet Ministers have principally agreed to that, but we are waiting on a couple of clarifications on other matters. So we are waiting on AG's department clearance on that. Once that is received, hopefully that will be there tomorrow. If that is available tomorrow itself, the tariff increment will take place. We have been working with a team of members to make sure that we have a new Electricity Act that will replace the existing one, so that there are more private involvement, competition in generation, competition in distribution, so that the public has a choice when they are going with the service provider and has a better competitive advantage as well.
The minister also spoke on social media claims regarding plans to impose another electricity tariff revision.
Even though there are social media claims, there are claims on the media that there is going to be another tariff increase or a revision taking place immediately. The next tariff revision will obviously be taken in January of next year. That is the government policy that we have taken. And according to that, if we can integrate all these renewable development plans that we have started work on, I would positively think that the tariff revision would be another decrease, just like the July revision that we had.
Meanwhile, more news from Mana. Residents of Naruvirikulam, Mana, protested against the wind power projects being launched in the area. Now, these protesters pointed out that these projects cause serious disruptions to their daily lives. Former Prime Minister of Pakistan Imran Khan was given a 3-year jail sentence. What is going on that front? We'll await that and more news after this short commercial break.
Democracy is threatened in our country. On the other hand, the fact that we are able to talk like this, talk freely like this, is a sign that it is still alive.
They have planned to suppress the leaders who are talking about these issues. As a trade union leaders and as people of the country, we have a right to talk. We have right. This is a democratic country.
Last year, despite the repression, people just came out to the streets and didn't go home, didn't want to just take a back seat.
The caliber of men I saw in the 70s was quite different. It's a world of difference, right? They were people who were very responsible. Fortunately, in Parliament, we don't see that kind of leader. They are sometimes sleeping, snoring.
Face the Nation, Wednesday nights at 9:30 on TV1.
If you are talking about SOEs, the number one priority should be not selling or divesting or getting dollars by selling your family silver, but by making the SOEs viable and profit making.
He in fact said, I would like you to be a chairman of another organization. So it was more a surprise and some form of unexpected move, which I believe is not proper ethics or decorum in a corporate boardroom.
We are not against private enterprises. We are not for keeping loss-making institutions with us either. But what we are against is the complete outright selling of things.
Ministers also must understand that these entities also must be run and managed in a profitable manner. How do you get along with this? You need to know your numbers, you need to know your staff, you need to know your efficiency levels. If technology is not brought in, that has to be brought in. So,
Newsline, Monday to Friday at 8:30 p.m. on TV1.
The public sector is getting funds from the government, structuring SOEs or privatizing state-owned enterprises. People's perception is that SOEs are not efficient enough. What do you do to motivate the staff to be more efficient? The services are not decentralized. They are all concentrated in Colombo. There are 5 or 6 steps which may be deemed unnecessary.
The People's Platform, every Monday and Friday at 7:30 p.m. on TV1.
Welcome back to the news. And making headlines this evening, Nishanta Edirisinghe, the additional general of Forest Conservation, says that 2,300 hectares of forest land has been destroyed by wildfires, and thus far owing to dry weather conditions. The Forest Conservation Department says that during the past, the number of forest fires have increased. The Department of Forest Conservation reported that in the past 10 months, 10 people have been arrested, in the past 1 month 10 people have been arrested in connection with setting forest fires.
Nishanta Edirisinghe, the Additional General for Forest Conservation, said that the number of wildfires reported this year is greater than 2022. He said that 95 wildfires have been reported thus far this year. Wildfires have been reported from many areas such as Matale, Badulla, Polonnaruwa, Kandy, Nuwara and Bonaragala districts. Why are forest fires happening? In Sri Lanka, forest fires happen the most owing to human activity. 1. Setting fires to prepare feeding grounds for animal husbandry. 2. Setting fires around trees such as Aralu, Bulu and Nelli. 3. Fires started by beedi leaves cultivators. 4. Forest fires set up by hunters. 5. Fires started by children. However, the Additional General for Forest Conservation says there is a possibility of the number of forest fires increasing. Is setting forest fires illegal? If so, what is the punishment for that crime? Setting fires to forests is illegal. A person is fined 10,000 to 100,000 rupees for doing that. They will be given a prison sentence up to 5 years. They will also have to pay a compensation claim for the damages. If a person set fire to a forest reserve, he will be fined from 20,000 to 100,000 rupees and a prison sentence of 7 years will be given. If a person sets fire to another forest, he will be given a fine between 5,000 to 500,000 rupees.
On to news overseas now. There's much news from the Pakistan front. However, first, Pakistan Railways has confirmed that at least 25 people have been killed and 80 injured when a train derailed in southern Pakistan. Several carriages of the Hazara Express overturned near Sahara railway station in Nawabshan, about 275 kilometers from the largest city, Karachi. Wounded passengers were moved to nearby hospitals. Rescue teams are trying to free people from the twisted wreckage. According to reports, accidents on Pakistan's antiquated railway systems are not uncommon. The country's railway minister said initial investigations showed the train was travelling at normal speed and they were trying to establish what led to the derailment. Former Prime Minister of Pakistan Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party on Sunday, that is today, accused authorities of denying his legal team access to the leader to get his signatures on essential documents for court purposes. Now, Imran Khan, former Prime Minister of Pakistan, is facing a 3-year jail sentence according to a court that dealt this blow. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan was arrested in Lahore on Saturday, shortly after an Islamabad trial court found him guilty of corrupt practices in a corrupt case and sentenced him to a 3-year imprisonment. Khan, the chairman of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, is lodged in the Attock jail after being sentenced for concealing the sale of state gifts. The case was adjudicated by a sessions court in Islamabad. The PTI party in a statement termed Khan's arrest as a, quote, abduction, unquote. The statement reads, quote, chairman's legal team is not being given access to him for legal documents signed as per the prerequisite, despite appeals made to the superintendent of Attock prison and additional Home Secretary Punjab, unquote. Much contention is brewing in the Ukraine front of things as well. The latest development in Eastern Africa is where the Niger's military government now faces a deadline today to release and reinstate the democratically elected president Mohamed Bazoum. Niger's military government faces a Sunday deadline set by the regional bloc known as Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, to release and reinstate the democratically elected president Mohamed Bazoum, who had described himself as a hostage. Meanwhile, Niger's co-generals have asked for help from the Russian mercenary group Wagner as the deadline nears for it to release the country's removed president or face possible military intervention by the Economic Community of West African States. The request came during a visit by co-leader General Salifo Modi to neighboring Mali, where he made contact with a representative of Wagner, Wasim Nasser. Coming back to news in the Asian continent, police in the Maldives have advised the public to avoid crossing the Sinamale Bridge due to unusually high surge waves affecting the area.
The surge waves on Saturday have exacerbated the situation, leading to flooding not only in the Sinamale Bridge area, but also extending to the Majidi Road vicinity. Some of the videos circulating online show the vehicles travelling on these roads being swept by waves, resulting in significant damages. Due to the powerful force of the waves and considerable damage being inflicted upon vehicles parked in the industrial area of Malé, the police have urged the public to refrain from making any unnecessary journeys across the bridge.
Back to some local news. The 261st annual feast of St. Anne's Shrine in Thalavila took place today. The festive mass was celebrated by the Bishop of Kandy and Apostolic Administrator of Chilau, His Lordship Bishop Valence Mendes.
The 261st annual feast of the St. Anne's Shrine in Thalavila began after the lifting of the flagpole. After a week of various religious rituals, including novenas, the festive mass was celebrated today. The festive mass was led by Bishop of Kandy and Apostolic Administrator of Chilau, His Lordship Bishop Valence Mendes.
When talking about change, we need to think about our country today. People are claiming for the need for change in the whole country. To make a change, we have to appoint people who will change. Changing the system won't work if the people don't change. A big change is needed to change this country, to make this country a prosperous country and to fulfill the basic needs of the people. But that change will not happen if the people and the politicians do not change. Speaking of people who change, I remember Mohanlal Gandhi of India. He is known as Mahatma Gandhi. It was Gandhi who changed the philosophy of India and the life of the people. After fighting with the colonialists, Gandhi took the country to progress after independence. He did not oppress the people. He fought a non-violent battle, protected the rights of the people and innocent people, and thought of the people instead of himself. People like that are needed to rebuild this country.
At the end of the mass, processions carrying the statue of St. Anne began. Later, devotees gathered to receive blessings. A large number of devotees from different parts of the country arrived at the Thalavila St. Anne's Shrine to receive blessings. The Talavila Senan Shrine is a sacred place of worship located in Kalpitia, which is visited by many Catholic devotees. This shrine was dedicated to Senan, the mother of St. Mary, in 1843. Two feasts are celebrated annually at the Senan Shrine. The first feast is held in March and the second feast in August.
Be the first to know about the biggest stories as they break. Subscribe to News First English News Alerts. News First, your trusted English news channel.
On to some exciting sports news. Up in the north, Hilawale Young Hendricks emerged champions at the Jaffna Premier League.
Hilawale Young Hendricks emerged champions at the Jaffna Premier League 4-3 goals at the penalty shootout against Kurunagar Padamin. Shakti TV is the official media sponsor for the event. This tournament was organized by the North Province Sports Ministry to identify talented players in the Northern Province. The final match was played at the Jaffna Doreappa grounds. North Province Chief Secretary Saman Bandulasena, Jaffna District Army Commander, Group Director of the Sirasa Shakti Media Network, Shivan Daniel, and Shakti TV channel head Murugesu Kulendran attended the event.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News here on TV1. Stay tuned to our social media pages and stay updated with the latest of news. Bringing you the news from the news desk, I am Sandro Satyajit signing off. Have a beautiful night.